Hello ladies and mental gen, this is Lloyd, and with me today on our new channel we have Tony Belas in the blue corner from Daystate, Brocock, MTC,
hello.
That's about it. And on my left I've got the infamous Tom Forrest. Tom Forrest has worked at V-Mach and he's also worked with Daystate on a couple of projects. You might know the Daystate Forrester rifles, and that's where the name comes from. The show's going to be a little bit more UK centric, but we're hoping that everybody from around the world is going to get entertained by some of the stuff we're talking about. And today we've got all sorts of new things, so we're going to get started. Okay, so Tony, thanks for coming up to see us.
My pleasure. You've been threatening to do this for the last 18 years?
I think 12 months minimum, something like that. It's taken a little while to do the wallpaper and all that sort of stuff. But you brought some interesting goodies today, haven't you?
Yes.
And I've noticed you've got a few bags of bits and everything. So what have you brought with you that we can take the piss out of?
Well, the world likes bullpups.
Bullpups. I didn't mean that, folks. Sorry. Okay. It's a very serious show, this, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going well.
It's full of hot air. Right, so you brought a bullpup up.
I enjoy being on the first and only edition.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Right. Okay, so you brought a bullpup with you.
Yeah, I brought a bullpup.
Come on,
I brought a few bullpups because they're fashionable, so I thought I'd bring something up.
Great stuff. Let's have a show and tell. Let's see what you brought.
Well, bullpup. Do you know what a bullpup is?
It is a small version of a full-size rifle and designed in a way that the action's brought forward in the stock. But you've probably got a three-word answer for it, haven't you? What is a bullpup? What's the definition?
I'll give you a number. 1902. That's when the first one was made.
Okay.
Yeah. So they started early, based on the SMLE actually, and then it didn't get adopted. They brought it forward. It was obviously intended to use for drivers and later initially cavalry and then horse artillery and then later on into the tanks. And it was very, very popular, but nobody really wanted to buy them. So it's always remained an interesting concept. And then the British military took it over probably in about, originally in the 1950s and then into the 1960s. And finally in the 1980s they adopted a military bullpup. And it's intriguing, it's an idea, isn't it? A short gun.
Yeah.
And of course they're airguns, it's quite handy because you can shoot out car windows.
Pickups and things.
Pickups are perfect. Yeah. Carrying it around, my original idea was the back of a motorbike.
Okay, so let's have a look at your bullpup then. Let's see what you brought with you.
Well, I brought a couple. The first one I've got is the original Daystate bullpup, which is based on a Venom bullpup, something dear to Tom's heart. So this was done by Dave Pope and Ivan Hancock, and with Steve Pope as a young sprog in the background. So he was there when they made these rifles, and they developed it originally with a Diana 52 action, and then they decided that they were going to use a Daystate action. That's really where I got to hear the Daystate name for the first time. So I went to the Venom Arms Company in the Gunbarrel Industrial Estate in Birmingham, and bought one of these rifles, put a deposit down, and 4 months later the gun was ready. And that's the gun. So I've had this gun since 1988. So it's quite a bit.
And it's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a nice looking piece of kit.
I'm guessing you've obviously added to it over the time, have you? I mean, have you changed anything on it, or is this exactly? I'm guessing this isn't how it came from the factory as such, is it?
No, not really.
So no. What have you done to it? Have you sort of modernised it?
One of the things about bullpups is that they have advantages over standard length rifles, but they also have disadvantages, and one of them is usually a bloody awful trigger. They have a linkage which is difficult to dial out on a military rifle, so when you try to put them as sporting level weights of trigger, you end up with a very woolly trigger, and it takes quite a lot of engineering to get rid of the bad trigger. So what we did on this one was, first of all, we had about 15 different goes at developing a mechanical trigger on it, and that didn't really work. So we put an electronic trigger in. So this has got a very early 1990s electronic trigger, so it's early for Daystate. So this has electronic solenoid in there. Hear the click?
Yep.
And that simply fires the solenoid back and whacks off the standard trigger, which is inside the stock. About a couple of years later, we developed it more. We put a capacitor in there to give the battery a little bit more life, and we started to do other developments with sears that engage the trigger. But that's one of the first things that we had to do to give it a decent trigger control. This was a field target rifle back in its day. So not hunter field target rifle, field target.
Do I remember? I remember a guy that used to have one of these with a black stock on. What was he called? And he used to do a lot of field target in the early days. He always had a bullpup. Do you remember the guy? Oh God, I can't remember his name. I'll have to come back to that one. But yeah, I always remember.
Richard North had a bullpup. He used to shoot one of these at one point, and then I shot one in field target as well. So
right.
maybe it was me.
I'm guessing that looks a little bit like Don Blox's engraving as well. Is that Don Blox's?
That is Don Blox's, yeah.
Wow.
Is this an adjustable mount you've got on here, Tony?
It's an adjustable intermount, something that hasn't been taken forward to anybody's production. So
right.
At the time, adjustable mounts are still a bit of a rarity, aren't they?
Yeah.
And this is an adjustable intermount, so you've got, I don't know if you want to come in on the camera closer with it later, but you can see it goes up and down and left and right.
Because surely for a bullpup, that's a great idea, isn't it? I mean,
it is, but like all adjustable mounts, you can get it wrong, can't you? Because you're giving yourself a chance to really go out of line as well as going in line. But it was quite necessary on this because the machining, in 1988 was a little bit. So it kind of needed all the help it could get. So we were able to bring things into line.
It's a really great idea, that, especially when we mount the scope so high and trying to come in with the trajectory of the pellet.
Exactly, and the angle, you can tilt the scope forward on this one as well.
Right, okay.
It's a beautiful piece. I really like it. Actually,
I must admit that's the beauty of that electronic trigger as well, isn't it? You know, you can mount the trigger anywhere and retain some feel. I mean, I've got one of these that's mechanical and nice gun, but the trigger it's not great, with that linkage system on it.
Well, talking about bullpups, I've actually got a bullpup to show you as well. Probably, what was it, about a year ago we started to do the Kral bullpups, and hopefully, people might remember the video I did on the Kral bullpup, and there was a few little issues with the Kral. A few accuracy problems and stuff, and I'll show you the latest one which we've got here. Now, Range Right, excuse me, I should talk to the camera. Range Right are the importers for the Kral range, and people might remember seeing this on the video. In fact, I think I had this on the Airgun of the Year 2016 video. It didn't win because I wanted it to win, to be honest with you, but there was a few little issues with it, and there was a few problems mainly to do with the barrels. The quality of the barrel wasn't very good, and also as well, in fact, actually we'll talk a little bit about the trigger mod you've made to this, but the trigger was quite heavy. Few little niggles that sort of stopped it from becoming new Airgun of the Year. But this one that we've just received off Range Right, which thank you very much, Range Right, for sending us this model. This is what they're calling the Mark II. Now, really, to be honest with you, from all intents and purposes, it looks exactly the same as the Mark 1, but the improvements are internal. In fact, the improvements are mainly on the internals of the barrel, because now it seems to have much better rifling. Range Right have actually said that they were disappointed with the accuracy of the front ones, the first ones, so they went back to the Kral factory and asked them to improve them, and this is it. There's evidently been some improvements in the valving as well, and I'm just waiting for Range Right to actually supply me with the details, and unfortunately we're doing this video quicker than they would have liked, really, but we wanted to get it out there. The barrel is new. There is some improvements in the valving. They have improved the trigger. Now we've tested this one out, and the trigger was a little bit better, but it's still not perfect. So I asked Tom, who likes delving into these things, to see if he could improve it. So do you want to tell us what you've done?
Yeah, I mean, basically before we had quite a heavy single stage trigger, and although it was better, an improvement on the last one, there was quite a lot of creep. So we find it, along with the barrel issues, it was not helping with the accuracy. But on it, thankfully, there's enough leeway in one of the sears to put an adjuster in. So I basically put an adjuster in the form of a grub screw, and that gives us a sort of pseudo two-stage. It's not a genuine two-stage, but it feels just like a two-stage, and gives us now a good crisp second stage.
Well, I shot that before and after, didn't I?
Yeah.
I shot it before, and to be honest with it wasn't great. And we've given feedback to Range Right, and they're going to go back to Kral to get it improved. We've also told them about Tom's little mod, which, to be honest with you, it's like 5p's worth.
Yeah, I mean, the parts-wise, and it's 10 minutes of a job, easy to set up. And I must admit on this one as well, it's more consistent than the first one was that we got.
Yeah, so big improvement all round,
which will help the accuracy as well.
We're going to be actually testing this out in the field. We've already done a little bit of shooting with it, and it does seem to shoot a lot better. And we're going to be selling this. But what we're going to do is we're going to be selling it with the trigger adjustments already done, and hopefully Kral will be doing that from the factory soon. So like you'll be able to get the same thing from your favourite local retailer with the modifications done. Nice thing I like about this is £399. I think it's going to be.
It's ace value, isn't it? You know, when you look at the gun, it's
yeah,
balanced
superb.
as well.
What do you think, Tony? Have you actually handled?
No, I haven't handled one. I've seen them on the wall in at shows, but I've never actually handled one. I think for the money, that's the most fantastic thing, isn't it? That's it, because there's a lot of engineering involved in that to bring it into that kind of money.
Yeah.
You can forgive all the other bits and pieces.
Yeah.
You know. And as I say, it's difficult on a bullpup to do anything decent with the trigger unless you're going to throw money at it. So for them to come in with a half decent trigger at that sort of money is quite good.
That can be ready on.
Yeah,
and I mean,
right.
to be honest with you, you know, you've got the power adjuster, you've got the manometer or the gauge at the end.
Yes.
Side lever cocking.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, it works really well. And obviously, I've not put the magazine in, to be honest with you, but it's 10-shot magazine is standard. There is improvements to the magazine quality as well, because we did have a few issues with the magazines, and again, that was fed back to Range Right. Range Right are brilliant like that. They actually fed that back to Kral, and Kral actually do seem to be listening and modifying the. That's a little.
What's the goes on
look,
it's a magazine storage.
It's a magazine storage compartment, so you can put your spare magazine. Yeah, exactly.
Sandwiches.
We could actually. We need to cut a hole in yours and put one in.
Well,
but
yeah,
it's really quite cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, you'll be able to get these from your local retailer. Like I say, it is they are classing it as a Mark II. It's not written Mark II, so I guess if you're going to go into your local retailer, just make sure that you're asking for the latest Kral Puncher Bullpup, and you will get a much improved model. And I'm really happy with it. Another thing that people have actually keep asking me about is evidently these, when they first came out, this was plastic. And it was flexi plastic. It wasn't particularly strong. You obviously can't tell from the what you're looking at now, but this is alloy. Okay, so and it's obviously Picatinny. So that's another thing. Picatinny rails. I don't know. Everybody seems to be going Picatinny nowadays. It's
if you're
is it a fashion or?
I think it's a fashion for the UK. It's probably a necessity for the States because they awful lot of Picatinny 20mm rails in the States. In the UK, when it's mostly airgunners and they already own boxes of mounts, it's
I sort of feel it's a bit bad really when people come in and they want one of these and then you say, well, I have to buy a new set of mounts with it as well, and it's another 25 quid.
Yeah.
But it's at least they've improved it. It's alloy. It's really really tough now, so you won't get that problem with flexing issues anymore, which is great.
And the Picatinny does go in hand with the bullpup style as well, doesn't it? Really,
I think we're getting there with Picatinny, aren't we? On airguns, having an anti-recoil stop now on a gun that doesn't recoil.
Yes.
It's a bit odd, isn't it? But and also more expensive mounts by 50%. So you've got that to consider. But then, and on an economy gun like this, having to buy mounts that cost half as much as the gun.
It's sort of difficult. Yeah,
but the thing is, you are going to look cool.
Oh yes, that's true.
So that's all that matters, really. Yeah. Anyway, that's the Kral Puncher Pro. We have actually got another bullpup as well.
We've got this Air Arms one here. I've got another one down here, so we've got two.
Oh my God, it's bullpup madness. Anyway, bullpup sales are going really well. So
they are. Bullpup sales are double what everybody anticipated, and so that's why everybody's got on the bandwagon and stayed on it, because it's. I think when we were forecasting Pulsar 3 years ago, I was 100% wrong, but I'm wrong in the right way, with sales were twice what I expected them to be. So, not a bad place to start.
Not at all, no. And
chaos in the workshop when you're trying to build them and order the parts, but not bad for the company.
I must admit, when I actually saw the Pulsar, I was quite surprised because I was expecting a Mark 5, like a Mark 4 Daystate, but just tweaked. And when you brought this out, I was like, "Oh wow, that's interesting." Yeah. And I wasn't sure myself. I thought, what, is it going to sell? But the great thing about the Pulsar is it's proven itself. And I've noticed that the sales they haven't died off at all. In fact, actually, I think they're picking up. Yeah. Second-hand Pulsars, when they come in, they just last like 5 minutes. And they're a fabulous gun. Yeah. And a lot of guys who bought Pulsars, and I don't stock the Renegade myself, to be honest with you. So maybe you'll extol the virtues and persuade me. But I don't stock the Renegade, to be honest with you, because I really like the Pulsar now, and it's been 100% reliable. And I like the idea of all the electronics, but the Renegade's different, isn't it? So why would somebody want to buy a Renegade over a Pulsar? It's a hybrid, as
we say. It's a bit of both, really. So we discussed one of the problems with the trigger link.
Let me show this to the audience. Okay, there we go.
Okay, so this is the mechanical electronic version. So basically the mechanical version of the Pulsar. So sometimes people don't want electronic guns. They don't want the cost and they don't want the complexity. And particularly when we're on export, where we want really high power, the electronic guns will only go so high. The mechanical guns will go just that much more higher. More higher? Higher. So we wanted to do a hybrid version. So we put our mechanical system, a Wolverine system, but we still had that trigger. So what we decided to do was bring in the electronic trigger of the Pulsar, so just the trigger. Basically a similar design to the early Venom electronic system that we worked on, and put it into the Renegade.
Okay.
But by putting electronics in, okay, we're adding cost, but we're getting a match grade electronic trigger. And we're also able to do things like bolt open safeties, which is quite important. You know, if you fire a gun with a breech block under your nose, and you get a blast of air up your nose, well, there are times when that might be beneficial, but not when you're shooting an air gun. So really, we jar that out. So if you cock the gun, pull the trigger, it won't fire.
Right. Okay. And obviously, the viewers are going to want to know what's the difference in price. I mean, what's this coming in at? And also as well, you seem to have a lot of stock options.
Well, it
so
knocks
what have you got?
£300 off the Pulsar price, depending on what stock you
So what's the recommended retail of this particular
$14.60.
$14.60.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. And stock options?
You've got, at the moment, we're just doing them with synthetic stock, but there is also a laminate stock option available if you want it.
Okay.
What's the difference in your shot count, Tony, between the Renegade and the Pulsar?
It's about 10% lower on the Renegade.
Right.
So not a lot, but there is some change.
Slight change, yeah.
Okay. That's
Okay. But if we put that alongside this little rifle here, so you can see this is a conversion of air arms.
Okay. I'll tell you what. Let's lift them like that, so you can actually see the difference in sizes a lot easier. This one on my right. This one is a conversion kit. Now, again, you know, if you've ever watched me on the other channel, you'll see I've done a few videos on the Craftsman Vit stocks. Craftsman Vit designs these stocks, and basically you buy them as a kit with the stock and the metalwork. You take your standard action, you take your standard stock off, you pop it into the stock. It's all easy fit, but to be honest with you, I mean, I even did a video of me installing one, and if I can install it, I think anybody can. These retail around about £350. It's another option if you've already got a gun that you don't want to get rid of. You don't want to buy a Renegade. You don't want to buy an extra gun. You've already got, say, an S410. I think they're available for the HW100 and various others. You can literally just buy the stock kit, 350 quid, pop it in. There are some lovely advantages.
Nice looking bit of kit.
It's gorgeous, isn't it? Absolutely gorgeous. There are some slight disadvantages as well. I mean, you can see on the S400, for example, the bolt is right at the back of the stock, and it's a little bit more awkward. And to be honest with you, I've used these guns, and yeah, it's a little bit awkward at first, but you soon get used to it. It's like anything. That's really the disadvantage.
But then you can cock it like that, or you can bring it down. You don't have to do it behind your ear.
It's a knack thing, isn't it? It's something
that's right.
you just get used to, you know.
Yeah.
But I actually think for a wood stocked bullpup, that's one of the nicest looking guns on the market.
Yeah,
it retains the gauge. Yeah. You fitted this one today, didn't you?
Yeah.
And
I think they look well. They handle well. They're comfortable in the shoulder. We do a cheek piece as well, don't we?
Actually, yeah, we only do it for the HW100. You've got a metal. Obviously, you've got the metal breech block. We do a really nice. I haven't got a 100 because we've sold out, to be honest with you. But we've got a little cheek piece that rolls over, and you've also got a biathlon lever that fits on the side. So lovely little things. The Craftsman Vit stocks, just beautiful, to be honest with you. I think that's all the bullpups, isn't it?
We're done on bullpups.
Great stuff. We've done all the bullpups. Shall we move on? Right. Excellent.